He was afraid right after Jesus said, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." Peter, the rock, when he saw the wind that was there before he saw Jesus, he paid attention to the wind, saw Jesus, started walking out on the water, and then paid attention to the wind again. Does that happen to us as believers all the time? Yep. So, Jesus has a couple of stories about storms, which I find very interesting. Recently, I've heard these stories over and over and over again for the last 30 years, and now I perceive a deeper significance to them, and I just want to go over that. All right. In Matthew, Jesus was just speaking to a multitude of people, and he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and blessed them and fed a huge crowd of people. And they all ate and they were satisfied. After everyone was done eating the food that was multiplied by the Lord, the disciples took up 12 baskets full of the broken pieces and leftovers. Immediately, starts at Matthew 14, Matthew 14:22. It says, "Immediately he made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side of a body of water, obviously, while he dismissed the crowds. After he had dismissed the crowds, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. But the boat by this time was a long way from the land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. Them being the disciples in the boat that he sent forth in the ocean, or in the sea. Jesus went away to pray, be by himself with the Father, which we should also follow suit. He was the model of how we should live. We need to do that too. Go to your secret place, in your prayer closet, into a park where nobody's around, nobody knows what you're doing. Close the door behind you. And whatever you do in private, the Father will see that and reward you for that. It's not what you do out in front of people that's important. The Bible refers to that as you being like a clanging cymbal, just a spectacle, right? There's enough spectacles out there. A true sign of your faith is what you do behind closed doors when nobody's looking. So he went up on the mountain. He was there for a time as the disciples are going out to sea to go to the other side. I guess it's the Sea of Galilee, I think. And during that time, it says that the wind was contrary or against them. And then it says, in the 4th watch of the night, he came to them, he being Jesus, walking on the sea. So it's the middle of the night, you can barely see. Disciples are likely sleeping. There was a 4th watch, so one or two or a couple are awake maybe. And they're keeping an eye on things, because the wind's contrary, stormy, right? Middle of the night, can't really see what's happening in the darkness, Our awareness gets kind of weird at night, right? We're stumbling around in the middle of nowhere. Especially in the ocean. They didn't have lights, right? It's probably pitch black, and it's probably a terrifying atmosphere. And as they're kind of assessing the risk around them, the wind is whipping up waves. They're worried. And then all of a sudden, what is that? They're looking out in the ocean, and they see something that shouldn't be there. It was a figure. Verse 26. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified. Right? Think of it. Think of the setting. Right? And said, "It's a ghost." And they freaked out. They cried out in fear. But immediately, Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." I know everyone out there can recall a time in their life where it seems like they're left vulnerable in a dark place. The prospect of death and destruction is all around you. Your hope is being shaken of the spectacle of doom all around you. The disciples, in the midst of that storm, were not alone, were they? Somebody was there with them, doing something that is beyond comprehension, because Jesus is greater than the storm. Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." Why? Because he's not. He's not afraid of the storm. He's also saying, don't be afraid. Sort of like daddy's here. You know what I mean? Your protector is here. Don't be afraid. I am with you. And I'm not afraid of the storm. So don't you be afraid of the storm. You're mine. I'm going to take care of you. And Peter answered him, verse 28, "Lord, if it is you," a little bit of doubt, "is that you?" And it's good to do that. Make sure you test the spirit. Make sure it is indeed something from God. Always. Including me. Test the spirit about everything I'm saying, please. "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." I think it's because Peter knew if it was the Lord, then he knew if he is called to do something by the Lord, he will be enabled to do whatever the Lord asks him. He will be enabled if it is according to the Lord's purpose. He will be enabled if he's doing something that he was told by the Lord on behalf of the Lord, also known as in his name. Anything you ask in my name, it will be given, right? "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." So Jesus answered his prayer, sort of, right? His request. Jesus said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. But then there was a change in what Peter was doing. Up to this point, he was scared of the storm, the situation that he was in, perceived doom all around him, scared in the darkness, vulnerable. And then he thought he saw a ghost. Not a good night for Peter and friends, right? But then he saw the hope and trusted in the Lord, because he knew who he was. He just saw him feed multitudes with 5 loaves and 2 fish. He just saw that. Just saw that. He knows who he is. So he didn't feel weird about saying, "Lord, if it's you, tell me to come out to you." And, and he did. He said, "Come." And Peter got out of the boat and he walked on the water. Not a surprise, right? Jesus changes reality. He changes reality. He's got the cheat code. He created reality. So, yeah, he can do it. Walked out on the water and he came to Jesus. But here's the change. And we all do it. We all do it. All of it. All of us. And, I think people do it more now than they ever have. We need to change that. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid. He was afraid right after Jesus said, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." Peter, the rock, when he saw the wind that was there before he saw Jesus, he paid attention to the wind, saw Jesus, started walking out on the water, and then paid attention to the wind again. Does that happen to us as believers all the time? Yep. He saw the wind. He saw the doom. He's even more exposed now because he's no longer in the boat. He's between the boat and Jesus, walking on water. Can you be any more exposed than that? In the sea. From the world's perspective, that is not a good situation to be in. Maybe the worst in terms of chances of survival, risk of life, risk of injury, risk of dying. Not a good situation that Peter's in. For a moment there, he didn't even think about that. He was fixated on the one who just fed the multitudes, and he knew if he could do that he could also walk on the water. Lord, just call to me, and I will walk out on the water with you. Jesus said, "Come." And he got out, started walking, and then he's like, whoa, what am I doing? Didn't make sense, right? He started walking out, fixated on Jesus. When he said, call me out on the water. And as he's walking, what did he do? He took his eyes off of Jesus. We all do it. He took his eyes off Jesus in the midst of the storm, in a precarious situation where he is put at extraordinary risk in terms of a worldly view. But then what happened? So Peter got out of the boat, he walked on the water and came to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Has anyone out there ever been in a situation? I'm talking to believers right now who have gone out there and professed their faith, and they've been saved, and they're sure they're saved, and they've been through valleys and mountaintops before, but this one valley was really dark, really deep, really low. It was cold. It was threatening. It was scary. And the odds were stacked against you in terms of surviving. I am in that situation right now. I won't go into details about what that is, but this is the darkest season of my existence. And I know exactly how Peter feels in this story. Peter, the rock, took his eyes off of Jesus. So honestly, it wasn't too long ago I did the same thing. But thank God for this. It's my lifeline. What does Jesus do? Peter. Well, you didn't believe in me. See you, Peter. Glub, glub, glub. Into the abyss. No. It's not what happened. Jesus immediately reached out his hand and took hold of him before he succumbed to his environment. And he said to him, "Oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt?" I think it's because we don't really understand who Jesus actually is. And what his heart is for us. You know, we say that he has personally saved us and went to hell to pay for our iniquities, for all of the sins that we have ever, even me, mine alone, unspeakable. I can't imagine what he's went through for me to rescue me from my demise. But I think for a long time in my life, I always perceived that as, well, he rescued me from going to hell, right? Not to minimize what he did. It's extraordinary, but I didn't fully grasp that. No, this isn't like a delayed benefit thing, right? He's saving us today in our day-to-day existence as believers. He's reaching at us, he's calling out to us, saying, "Come to me in the midst of your storm. Come." And not just swim over to me in the ocean, walk on it. Why? Because I told you to. Have faith. Believe in who I am. I am greater than the waves. I am greater than the storm. And I love you more than anything. And I would never want to hurt you. I went to hell for you so you wouldn't have to perish. Trust me. Trust me. That's a God I want to serve. Jesus immediately reached out his hand and he took hold of him, saying, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased. And those in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." I think they said a lot more than that. In my mind, I'm in the boat with them. In my mind, I'm in Peter's head. I just went through that whole thing. It's like, I can feel it. I can feel it from Peter's perspective, and I can feel it from Jesus' perspective. There's a disconnect, people, between us, our perception, and perception of Jesus. Even us believers, we have to seek his heart. We got to know what's in here. We got to know who he is. How are we going to tell people about who he is if we don't even know ourselves? And listen, don't be acting like you know everything. I don't. Pride in any form. Pride is probably the easiest way to just put pause on your progress. Of being conformed to his likeness. And understanding his heart. How are we going to reach people if we don't fully understand? So, why am I saying all this stuff? Why did I call out that? Because I do believe dark days are coming. It's not going to get easier. As the Spirit is going to be poured out in the last days, and it is, it's happening, the darkness will increase in this world. Because the evil that's out there, Satan, and his little thing that he's got going on, he's not conceding defeat, because he is the father of pride and lies and deceit. So he's making storms everywhere. He wants us to be ineffective. But people, we're not the ones walking on the water. We can't just do it. We can only do such things in the midst of these storms that the devil is conjuring against us if we fixate our eyes on the heart of Jesus. And understand it's not us and our own strength and our ability that's allowing us to walk on the water. It's our faith in the one that made the water, that made the wind, that made the ocean, the sea, that made your feet, that binds all things together. Focus on him and what his heart is. And when he says, come, come, there's no evil in him. You're doing it in his strength, not yours. All you have to do is believe. So what are you going to do when you are in your storm? When that storm comes, or maybe you're in one right now, you're not alone. You're not alone. Jesus is off standing in the dark storm, in the dark waters somewhere. He's there. Find him. Call to him. Seek him. Pursue him. Walk on the water to him when he calls. Walk on the water that should be drowning you and destroying you. Walk on it when he calls. He's greater. He is always greater than every situation, than anything that the devil can throw at us. He's always greater. Don't believe the devil's lies that he isn't. The devil already lost. And he's lying to you, and he's lying to me, telling us that Jesus isn't good enough, that the waves and the ocean and the storm that we're in is actually greater than him. Don't walk to him. Don't go to him, because you're going to die. It's too risky. Don't listen to him. The devil. Don't listen to him. It's all he does is lie and deceives. The truth is, your king went to hell for you. He paid for your sins. You're in the body, and he is in you. So Jesus is walking on water. You can walk on water, because it's him that's doing it. Not you. It's him, because he's in you. Don't lose sight of who you are. You are no longer the same. Father, on behalf of my King, I ask that everyone that is hearing this message hears it clearly. I thank you that you have given me the words to give to these people. These words are not my own. I ask that you continue to teach us about your heart, the heart of Jesus, which is one and the same, and embolden us and strengthen us to do your will when the storms come. Please help us to grow a radical faith. A radical faith that makes absolutely no sense to the rest of the world. Thank you for sending Jesus to rescue us. And Father, enable us to help rescue more people, to bring them home to the kingdom. Help us all to listen and abide in the head of the body, who is the King. Help us all to abide in the command of Jesus when he calls us to walk on the water in the midst of the storm. Remove the blindness from our eyes, our ears, our consciousness, and our heart, so that we can clearly hear the King when he calls out to us to come and walk on the top of the abyss. Please pour out your Spirit on everyone that's listening to this. Help us all to experience the love that is ultimately coming straight from you, Father. Help us to understand what your will is. Pour out your wisdom and knowledge on us. And help us to be humble and meek. And help us to endure. Help us to persevere. And help us always know that it is not under our strength, but under the strength of the one who has purchased us. Eyes on Jesus, people. Start doing it now so you'll know exactly what to do when darker days come. Do it now. Seek his heart. That's what I'm doing. I don't have it all figured out. Seek his heart. You don't have to be educated to do it. The best way I can describe it is You know that feeling when you sit next to somebody that you really, really like and they really like you? That there's like this electricity, this bond. Also feels really good, feels like comforting. Yeah, it's like that, but even more because he actually means it. Seek that. It's a hard thing. It's always a hard thing. Seek Jesus. He is the doorway to the Father and untold riches for eternity, and blessings and love and belonging. It's better than paradise. And we can have that now in the midst of the storm. That'll be another talk. You guys have a good day, okay? See ya.